Thanks very much for the introduction, John. I'm going to tell you about Sun Metals. It's a company that was listed on the stock exchange last year. We did a reverse takeover in May and went public. It's a company that's got a great team from the management through the board and the technical advisory. We've got a historic project where we've got a great discovery, and we're in a Tier 1 jurisdiction. So there's our capital structure right now. We've got 91 million shares outstanding. Note that the founders and insiders of the company have 34 million shares, so it's in good hands. Tech just came in and did a financing with us before Christmas. We raised $5.2 million, so they have 12.5 million shares at the time. That was a 13.8% ownership in the company, and they have the right to maintain that ownership as we move forward. So I'll just go into some of the details about the project, the asset that we've got in north central British Columbia. This is a significant historic project that was discovered in 1944. Over the year, there's been 400 plus drill holes put into it, 87,000 meters of drilling, and that's defined a corridor of mineralization that was 2.2 kilometers long. So we know that we've got a good, robust system there already. This is a project that had a lot of historic work. When we were still a private company, we went in and did a small exploration program to validate that work, and we updated the 43-101 resource. You can see it just there, just shy of 3 million tons of just about 3% copper equivalent. And just to put that in context, this is a carbonate replacement deposit. There's only one other well-known CRD system in British Columbia, and that's Silvertip. Silvertip sold in 2017 for 200 million US plus. And the size of their resource at the time of the sale was almost exactly that, just shy of 3 million tons. So we've got a fairly sizable, rich system there already. This is the location of the project. It's northwest of Prince George in northern British Columbia. You can drive a car to this project. So we're close enough to civilization. We've got all the advantages of infrastructure, rail 38 kilometers to the west. There's good power in the area, local workforce. We're in the interior, low rolling topography, moderate climatic conditions. We get 4 feet of snow in the winter here, not 40 or 50 like you hear about in the Golden Triangle. And yet we're far enough away from civilization that we lose the NIMBY effect, so nobody's going to be upset about a mine going into production here. Chemis is 120 kilometers to the north, or sorry, 200 kilometers to the north. Mount Milligan is 120 kilometers to the southeast, so this is a mining area. If you were going to pick a spot in the province to put a mining project, this would be it. And I think before I leave this slide, I'll note as well that we're in the core territory of the Takla First Nation. Working with First Nations is very important, working in British Columbia. We have an agreement with the nation. They're a very entrepreneurial, small community, but very entrepreneurial. They've got agreements with Chemis and Mount Milligan as well. They worked with us closely in their 2018 program, did all of our excavator work for us and our lumber supply and that sort of thing. So we have good alignment of interest with them. This is the carbonate replacement model that Dr. Megaw, Peter Megaw, he's a founder of Mag Silver, and he's probably, well, certainly in my mind, he's the world's leading authority in carbonate replacement systems. I think he's seen more of these things than anybody else on the planet. I first worked with Peter in 1997 when I was with Imperial Metals. I was running the Silvertip project, and I'd hired him to come to British Columbia. Shortly after that, he went to work on this project and was developing this model. One of the reasons why Stardust is an important prototype for this model is because it's one of the few systems anywhere in the world that's fully integrated. It has all of these components in it. The mineralized copper moly porphyry, around that you get the copper gold contact skarn, outboard from that you get into the zinc silver rich manto chimney part of the system, and in the extremity you get into the high grade epithermal precious metal veins. Usually when you go into one of these CRD systems, you'll only find the manto and chimney or the skarn or maybe the manto and the skarn, but not all the components together. So we know because of the presence of all these components that this is a very special system. Now, this is a historic project. There's been a lot of work done by previous operators. One of the important things to note about the previous work, it was all done on paper and in 2D. So this is the first time. We took about 4 months last winter to incorporate all of that paperwork into the 3D computerized model. So we're able to use three-dimensional modeling on this sort of thing. This is the type of image that wasn't available to the previous operators. You can see a classic thumbprint high in this magnetic image where you've got the pink showing where the porphyry is at. Around that, a sea of blue where you get the magnetic destruction. The skarn, shown in red there, is hanging off the side of the intrusive right where you would expect it to be, and the 2.2 kilometer long corridor of carbonate replacement mineralization stretching down to the southeast from there. So all of this more sophisticated modeling, I think, is giving us a leg up on trying to actually find a mine on this project. So I think we've established that we've got lots of size and size potential in the system. What about grade? And I've just pulled out some of the historic drill intercepts. I think that's big enough. Hopefully you can see it. But I'll just read out a couple of the numbers to you. In the skarn part of the system, I've highlighted in yellow 15 meters of almost 2% copper, 13 grams gold, and I'm sorry, that's wrong. That's 15 meters of 2% copper, 24 grams gold, and 135 grams silver. I can't see it, but I can remember those numbers. In the manto part of the system, there's 4 meters of a percent copper, 2 grams gold. I think that's, I don't remember the silver number, but it's 17% zinc. And in the the vein part of the system, so this is 2.5 kilometers away from the source of the fluids, there's still enough strength to form 5 meters of 13 grams gold and 900 grams per ton silver. So we've got size and size potential. We've got lots of high grades throughout the entire system, so I think that's a pretty good start for us. The idea was then to go and develop an exploration program in the core of the property where we knew we were going to be into that copper-gold skarn and see if we could find a fluid flow pathway that was getting closer to the source of the fluids that caused this mineralization, and hopefully get into some thicker and more robust mineralization. So this is the outline of the 2018 exploration program that we took on last year. And you can see there's a number of different targets there. The green ones are geologic targets. The purple ones are geophysical targets, so conductors that came out of our VTEM survey that we'd done earlier in the year. And then the yellow are extensional targets. So that's going into the 43101 compliant resource and just looking along strike or down dip and seeing if we can find the extensions of where those fluid pathways were coming from or going to. And this is the answer to our goals, was hole 421. So you can see in the upper area up here in the phyllites, the zones that are in red there, that's what makes up that existing almost 3 million tons of almost 3% copper equivalent. Those zones on average in the resource were 4.3 meters thick. This intercept that we hit down here, 100 meters thick of 4.99% copper equivalent. So something that is certainly head and shoulders above anything else that had been seen on the property, a real game changer for us. And we believe that this is the first time that anybody has actually tapped into the proximal part of the skarn system. And we're very hopeful that we're actually going to be finding more of this type of mineralization as we continue to follow this fluid flow pathway. So Dr. Megaw in his travels around the world has started to take note of the common features that you see in all the big CRD systems that you actually want to own. And the checklist here is something that we took to Stardust. When we went down the list, we got an emphatic yes in every one of the check boxes except for, whoops, sorry, the top one. I hit the wrong button there. Anyways, the top checkbox was, are you in northern Mexico in the CRD belt that's well known down there? And we're not. We're in northern British Columbia. Nobody would have expected us to come up with 100 meters of 5% copper equivalent in northern British Columbia in a carbonate replacement system. And that's why we're considering it to be a disruptive discovery. Just like nobody was expecting that diamonds were going to be found in the Northwest Territories, and that's turned into an incredible industry. Nobody thought that the Eskay Creek was going to be found. The highest grade gold mine in the world would be found in northern British Columbia. There was nothing else like it around it, but it was there. And Fruta del Norte is a very spectacular deposit down in Ecuador. Nothing else around it like it, but it was there. So we think that we've got all the indications that we've got a very strong, robust carbonate replacement system in northern British Columbia where you wouldn't expect to find it. So just to wrap up here, we've got major planning underway for our 2019 program. The focus of our program, of course, is going to be to go in and drill off the area around hole 421. We're going to use our 5.2 million in flow-through funding to do that in the coming year. And I think the other thing to point out is just flight to quality. 100 meters of 5% copper equivalent is not a common result these days, and we're getting a lot of attention for that, and we expect that that's going to continue as we go forward. So thanks very much for your attention.